Welcome back, everybody. For today's deep dive, we're going back to 1864
Oh, yeah.
to the presidential election.
Uh-huh.
And I know what you're thinking.
Okay.
Boring.
Right.
Another election.
Yeah.
But this one's different.
Okay.
This one's happening
Okay.
right smack dab
Okay.
in the middle of the Civil War.
Oh, wow. That is different.
Yeah. So, think about that.
Okay, yeah.
The country is literally at war with itself,
Uh-huh.
and they're going to pause
Yeah.
to elect a president.
Interesting.
Yeah. And to make things even spicier.
Okay.
The sitting president,
Yeah.
Abraham Lincoln,
Uh-huh.
he's running for a second term.
Okay.
So the stakes couldn't be higher.
So this isn't just another election?
No, not at all.
Okay, yeah, got it.
And the sources we have for this deep dive
Mm-hmm.
are amazing.
All right.
We have firsthand accounts from people who lived through it.
Wow.
We have historical analyses by,
Yeah.
some of the best scholars out there. And we even get to peek behind the curtain
Oh, really?
at all the political maneuvering
Yeah.
that shaped this election.
So what are we waiting for? Let's dive in.
Okay. Well, one of the things that jumps out at me right away
Yeah.
is just how complex
Uh-huh.
the whole situation was.
Yeah.
I mean, Lincoln wasn't just facing pressure from the Confederacy.
Right.
He was also facing challenges from within his own party.
Oh. So even his own team was giving him a hard time.
Oh, yeah. It was.
Wow.
I mean, I guess we tend to think of the Republican Party, back then as this kind of unified force.
Right.
But in reality, it was really fractured,
Okay.
especially when it came to the war and to slavery.
Yeah, because they didn't all agree on how to handle it.
Not at all.
Yeah.
I mean, you had the radical Republicans
Right.
who wanted to take a really hard line.
Like, how hard are we talking?
I mean, they wanted immediate emancipation,
Okay.
and they wanted to really prosecute the war aggressively.
Uh-huh.
And then you had the more moderate Republicans
Mm-hmm.
who were a little more cautious.
Yeah, I could see how that would cause some tension.
And that tension really came to a head
Oh, really?
during the Republican National Convention
Okay.
in 1864.
Okay.
Because the radical Republicans,
Yeah.
they actually tried to prevent Lincoln
Wait a minute.
from getting the nomination.
They tried to unseat him.
Yeah.
Wow, that's bold.
Yeah, they thought he was too cautious, too willing to compromise.
So who did they want instead?
Well, at first,
Yeah.
they threw their support behind Salmon P. Chase.
And who was he?
He was Lincoln's Treasury Secretary.
Oh, wow. So this was someone from Lincoln's own cabinet.
Yeah, can you imagine that?
No, I mean,
Talk about awkward staff meetings.
that's an understatement, I bet.
But it wasn't just Chase himself.
Oh.
They actually launched this whole campaign against Lincoln.
What kind of campaign?
Well, it was really nasty, actually.
Okay.
They put out this document
Uh-huh.
called the Pomeroy Circular.
The Pomeroy what?
The Pomeroy Circular. And it was basically a scathing attack on Lincoln and his leadership.
Oh, man, they didn't hold back.
Not at all.
So what did it say?
Well, it accused Lincoln of being incompetent
Ouch.
and of prolonging the war unnecessarily.
Wow.
And it even suggested that he was more concerned with his own political survival
Okay.
than with saving the Union.
So they were really trying to paint him as a bad guy?
They were trying to undermine him completely.
So did it work?
Well, that's the funny thing.
Okay.
It actually backfired. The circular was so inflammatory
Uh-huh.
and so over the top
Yeah.
that it ended up making people feel sorry for Lincoln.
Really?
Yeah, even people who had doubts about his leadership
Okay.
were turned off
Yeah.
by how nasty the attacks were.
So it kind of blew up in their faces?
It did. It actually strengthened Lincoln's position.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So what happened to Chase?
Well, he saw the writing on the wall,
Uh-huh.
and he withdrew from the race.
Okay.
But the radical Republicans, they didn't give up.
Of course not.
They turned to another candidate,
Who?
John C. Fremont.
Oh, I've heard of him. Wasn't he an explorer or something?
Yeah, he was a famous explorer and politician.
Okay.
And he had a bit of a reputation as a maverick.
A maverick? How so?
Well, he was outspoken
Uh-huh.
and impulsive,
Okay.
and he had clashed with Lincoln in the past.
I
So the stage was set
Yeah.
for this really dramatic showdown
All right.
at the Republican National Convention in June of 1864.
So what was the atmosphere like there?
Oh, it was intense.
Yeah?
You had all these competing factions all trying to influence the outcome.
Uh-huh.
And of course, the weight of the war
Yeah.
was hanging over everything.
Yeah.
I mean, Lincoln was literally fighting for his political life.
While also trying to keep the country from falling apart.
Exactly.
So how did he manage all that?
Well, It's a testament to his political skills
Uh-huh.
and his commitment to preserving the Union.
Okay.
He managed to navigate all these competing interests,
Yeah.
and he secured the nomination.
Wow. So he outmaneuvered them.
Yeah, he did.
That's impressive.
But while all this was happening with the Republicans,
Mm-hmm.
the Democrats were having their own convention,
Oh, right. Yeah.
and they were dealing with their own set of problems.
Okay.
I mean, the Democratic Party was deeply divided
Over what?
over the war.
Okay.
You had the war Democrats
Mm-hmm.
who supported the Union and the war effort,
Uh-huh.
and then you had the peace Democrats,
Okay.
sometimes called Copperheads.
Copperheads, what a name.
Right.
Okay.
And they wanted to end the war immediately.
Even if it meant letting the Confederacy go.
Yeah, they were willing to negotiate peace, even if it meant recognizing Confederate independence.
Wow. That's a huge difference of opinion.
Yeah, it was a fundamental disagreement
Yeah.
about the future of the country.
So how could they even function as a party?
It was really tough.
Yeah.
This division made it almost impossible
Okay.
for them to present a united front against Lincoln.
That makes sense.
And in a way,
Yeah.
it played right into Lincoln's hands
How so?
because it made the Democrats look weak and indecisive.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, if they couldn't even agree on whether to fight the war or not,
Right.
how could they be trusted to lead the country?
So who did the Democrats end up nominating?
Well, this is where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
They nominated former Union General
Okay.
George B. McClellan.
A Union general.
Yeah.
But they're the peace party, right?
It was a gamble, for sure.
Yeah, I can see that.
I mean, McClellan was a popular figure,
Mm-hmm.
a war hero,
Mm-hmm.
but he had been critical of Lincoln's handling of the war.
Okay.
And his views on emancipation
Yeah.
were not exactly in line with the peace Democrats.
So he was kind of stuck in the middle.
Yeah.
What a mess.
Yeah, it was a recipe for disaster.
So they had a popular candidate, but with a message that was all over the place.
Exactly.
Wow.
And this is all happening against the backdrop of this brutal war.
Yeah.
The fate of the nation is hanging in the balance.
Uh-huh.
And the outcome of the war is
Yeah.
going to have a huge impact
Yeah.
on the election.
So by the summer of 1864, things weren't looking so good for Lincoln.
Really?
Yeah, the war was dragging on with no end in sight. Casualties were mounting.
Yeah.
And people were just exhausted by the whole thing.
War weariness.
Exactly.
So did that affect his chances of winning?
Big time. People were starting to doubt his leadership, wondering if the war was really worth it.
Yeah, bet.
And the Democrats, with their peace platform,
Right.
they were starting to gain traction.
So what did Lincoln do?
Well, he knew he needed to change the narrative.
Okay.
He had to show people that victory was possible. And that's where the turning point of the election comes in.
Okay.
A series of crucial Union victories
Oh, really?
that completely shifted the momentum.
So the war actually helped Lincoln win the election.
In a way, yes. These victories gave people hope, and they made Lincoln look like the strong leader they needed.
Interesting. So what were these victories?
Well, the first big one came in early September of 1864.
Okay.
General William T. Sherman, after a long and bloody campaign, finally captured the city of Atlanta.
Atlanta.
Yeah, it was a major Confederate hub,
All right.
and its fall was a huge blow to the South.
So this was a big deal.
It was a turning point in the war. It showed that the Union could win,
Yeah.
and it really boosted morale in the North.
What about McClellan?
Oh, man, he was in trouble.
Yeah.
Here he is running on this peace platform,
Right.
and suddenly the Union is winning big battles.
The people are less interested in peace now.
Exactly. They're starting to think, hey, maybe we can actually win this thing.
So what did McClellan do?
He tried to adjust his message,
Okay.
but it was tough.
Yeah.
He was basically trying to swim upstream.
Yeah.
And it didn't help that there were more Union victories on the way.
Oh, there were.
Oh, yeah, in August.
Okay.
Admiral David Farragut won a major victory at Mobile Bay.
Mobile Bay.
Yeah, it was one of the last major Confederate ports.
Hmm.
And then in the Shenandoah Valley,
Oh.
General Philip Sheridan defeated Confederate forces.
So Lincoln's got all this momentum going into the election.
Exactly. The war was turning in the Union's favor, and Lincoln was looking like the guy to lead them to victory.
So what happened in November?
Well, Lincoln won.
By a lot.
Yeah, he got 212 electoral votes to McClellan's 21.
Wow. That's a landslide.
It was a clear mandate from the people. They wanted Lincoln to finish the job.
So the war really did help Lincoln win.
It played a huge role.
Wow. What a story.
Yeah, and we're not done yet.
What else is there?
Well, Lincoln's second inauguration is coming up,
Oh, right.
and that's where we really see his vision for the future.
Okay, let's talk about that.
Yeah, Lincoln's second inauguration took place on March 4th, 1865.
Okay.
And it was a pretty subdued affair.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, the war was still going on, but there was this sense of anticipation in the air.
Okay.
Like, everyone knew that the end was near, and the Capitol Dome, it had just been completed.
Oh, wow.
So it stood there as the symbol of the Union's strength and resilience.
I bet that was a powerful image.
Oh, it was a reminder that despite everything the country had been through,
Yeah.
it was still standing.
Still together.
Exactly.
So what about Lincoln's speech?
His second inaugural address,
Yeah.
it's considered one of the greatest speeches in American history.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he talked about the causes of the war,
Uh-huh.
the evils of slavery,
Okay.
and the need for healing and reconciliation.
So he was looking ahead to the future.
He was trying to bring the country together, and he had this one line
Right.
that really captures the whole spirit of his speech.
What was it?
He said, "With malice toward none, with charity for all,
Wow.
with firmness in the right, as God gives us to see the right.
Okay.
Let us strive on to finish the work we are in, to bind up the nation's wounds,
Yeah.
to care for him who shall have borne the battle,
Oh, okay.
and for his widow and his orphan,
Wow.
to do all which may achieve and cherish a just and lasting peace."
That's powerful.
It's a call for unity and forgiveness,
Yeah.
even after all the pain and suffering of the war.
So Lincoln is trying to rebuild the country,
He is.
but I imagine there were still a lot of challenges.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, racism and prejudice were still deeply ingrained in American society.
Right.
And we see this really clearly
Okay.
in a story involving Frederick Douglass.
Frederick Douglass.
Yeah, the famous abolitionist.
Okay.
So on the night of Lincoln's second inauguration, Douglass decided to attend the reception at the White House.
Okay.
He wanted to congratulate Lincoln in person.
I bet that was a big moment for him.
It was, but when he got to the White House,
Yeah.
he was stopped by 2 guards.
What?
Yeah, they told him that people of color weren't allowed inside.
You're kidding.
I'm not...
They barred Frederick Douglass from entering the White House.
Yep.
Wow.
It's a stark reminder of how far the country still had to go.
Yeah.
But Douglass, he wasn't going to just give up.
Okay.
He insisted on seeing Lincoln.
Good for him.
And when Lincoln heard about what was happening,
Yeah.
he was furious.
I bet.
He immediately sent for Douglass.
Okay.
And when Douglass arrived, Lincoln embraced him.
Really?
Yeah, right there in front of everyone.
Wow.
And he called him my friend.
That's amazing.
It was a powerful symbol of Lincoln's commitment to racial equality,
Yeah.
even if it was just a small gesture.
It spoke volumes.
It did.
So we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive.
We have.
From political intrigue to battlefield victories to the challenges of leadership during a time of crisis.
And we've seen how Lincoln navigated all of it.
Yeah. He really was an incredible leader.
He was.
And his story, I think, has a lot to teach us
Oh, definitely.
about the importance of perseverance and about the power of hope, even in the darkest of times. Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the 1864 election.
It's been a pleasure.
And we hope you'll join us again next time.
For another fascinating journey into the past.
Until then, keep exploring and keep learning.